Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
One, nothing's wrong with me. Two, nothing's wrong with me. Three, nothing's wrong with me. Four, nothing is wrong with me. Now, let the bodies hit the Mobius Couch. People of the world, welcome. That's, of course, Drowning Pool. Let the bodies hit the floor. Classic nu metal anthem.
That's classic.
Always topical with our song references. But people of the world, welcome to the Mobius Couch, a time-space interdimensional vehicle from which your three hosts survey the world of comic books, comic book movies, and, of course, manga. We've dipped international in the past. Not tonight, but we have in the past. Tonight we're going to be talking about Something is Killing the Children, an ongoing comic book by James Tynion IV and Werther Dell-Edera. It's I think a Harvey... Is there a Harvey Award?
Yeah.
Eisner. Eisner and Harvey.
Eisner's and Harvey Award.
But it's an Eisner and Harvey nominated, possibly winning comic. I'm not sure. I haven't checked the Wikipedia. But it's critically acclaimed. Something is Killing the Children.
Here for deep cut facts or anything.
Yeah. But as usual, I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Patrick.
Hello.
And Joe.
Hello. I said hello.
I know you said hello. I left it at that.
Joe.
And Joe.
Patty? Hello, Patrick. Hey, Joe. How are you today? I am doing decent. Good.
Nailed it.
Good.
We nailed that intro. All right, but the three of us are, of course, the Mobius Couch. So let's start chatting.
Something is killing the children. I like how you cut yourself off that time.
Yeah, he did. I still didn't. It still bothered me deeply, but he did interrupt himself that time.
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wants to Patrick? Well, who wants to intro the general? Patrick, why don't you usually do the general intro, right? Do you want to intro the comic book? Whose idea was it to read this? Was it Joe? Joe, you talk about it. Whose idea was this?
I think it was mine. I've had to describe it to multiple people as I was reading it, and it was kind of fun to do. So, basically, when you say something like I'm reading Something is Killing the Children, they're like, what now? So you have to go, well, it's about somebody that, horrifying monsters that are literally ripping children into pieces. And, there's a monster hunter that comes down and hunts them. And it's fantastic. I don't know. It's a horror comic. It's definitely not for the faint of heart, I suppose. But it's incredibly well written, incredibly well drawn, and the characters are awesome. And it's basically about a small town getting ravaged by something that they don't know, or that, the adults can't see the monsters, so they are confused, and there's monsters killing children. And then we have the hero, Erica Slaughter, comes in and deals with it to the chagrin of the cops and the parents, because she can see the monsters, and they, and she kind of just does her own thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's chagrin just because of the incompetence of the local police force.
That's true.
I'm not sure they could even be chagrined about anything because they are
actually, it's completely funny. So Patrick and I read further than you, and I would say the cops in the second story arc are incompetent in comparison to. Yeah, I felt like the cops in the first, they're just understaffed and overwhelmed, I feel like, and don't know.
Well, I guess to their credit, the sheriff immediately understands he's in over his head and just steps back.
And he says as much, yeah.
He just lets Erica cuck him out of his own murder investigation. That's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty
but at least he just admits, I can't handle this.
Just to the story. So, that'll get you... Yeah. If that at all interests you, and you're like, oh, a mystery story. Well, not really a mystery. You know right away what's going on, but as the audience. But
you don't. It was a pretty big twist that Tommy Mahoney killed all those kids. I didn't see that coming at all. That was a pretty big plot twist.
Spoilers for the end of this story.
Spoilers, but it turns out Tommy murdered 25 children in the town he lived in. Who could have guessed that?
interesting about this one. The story picks up with her kind of finishing a mission, so to speak, and then she leaves there to go to this town. And the key being here is that there's at least 14 children missing, and I think they haven't even connected all the dots, so maybe there's more or something like that. And then quite a few get murdered while the book is happening. So, the body count's pretty high at the end for the kids. Sorry.
To like dumb it down for like dumb Hollywood executives, if you were to pitch it, it's kind of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer mixed with It, mixed with a little bit of Jack Reacher. I felt like it's kind of all those things kind of rolled into
Jack Reacher season 1, but
I mean the main difference is that Erica is
Reacher,
not a lot.
Season 1, sorry.
I mean the main difference is that Erica Slaughter isn't just a large man who uses his size to solve all problems, but it's
like a small
knives
town with a thing going on, and she comes in all by herself and does a thing, and it's solved, kind of thing. I mean, I got that part of it.
They also Greyhound buses. They both use Greyhound
buses, and then when she's
they're very similar in that regard.
When she gets arrested for the first time and she's talking to the sheriff or whatever, that scene was very reminiscent of the first episode of Reacher, where he knows all this stuff and the sheriff doesn't know how he knows it and all this stuff. And she's very, I mean, I'll get into it, my overall take, but fucking obsessed with Erica Slaughter.
Yeah, she's the best.
Yeah.
The swagger with which she moves through life is just...
let's do overall takes.
Yeah.
Al, why don't you... let's do overall takes.
Should we talk about the writer and the illustrator?
Sure.
I don't know much of... I mean, I know I've read a bunch of stuff from James Tynion the Fourth, but
don't confuse them with 1 through 3.
Mostly, I was almost the fourth.
Yeah, this is the fourth.
Like his middle name, and chose not to name me identical.
I just, first of all, well, I want to just say one thing.
3 generations, and you're like, I don't like my middle name. I'm not going to do it. Like what?
I just want a general, because I feel like this is more of an Anglo-American thing, but. Yeah. Stop naming your kids after yourself, jabronis. You're not the King of England who needs the Henry VIII or whatever. Just
agree.
Come up with a new name.
Agreed. Well, I mean,
because the other thing is
family names is pretty common, I think.
Okay, but the main problem is that without exception, the junior or the third ends up using the middle name as their real name anyway. Right?
Yeah,
like 90% of the time. So it's just a ridiculous custom.
Tynion the Fourth, he's written a lot of DC comics that I really enjoyed. Most recently, there was a really good run on Detective Comics Rebirth, in the Rebirth area, that had Tim as the lead character. Like Bruce says, like, Tim, you do this thing, kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure he wrote that run. But yeah, that was really good. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever really paid attention to his career other than that's the writer, and then I kind of forget, later on. But I've definitely read a lot of stuff with his name on it.
Yeah, well, he got started
where
so
it
he
began.
I read his Wikipedia. So according to Wikipedia, he studied at Sarah Lawrence College, which sounds like it's a 1940s women's school. Private liberal arts college, originally women's college, called it, became co-ed in 1968. But he studied under Scott Snyder before he got big. And Scott Snyder's also a DC. Well, he might have written for Marvel too by now, but definitely DC, yeah. So through Scott Snyder, he got into comic writing and wrote some Batman.
Yeah.
Was his his beginnings.
Didn't he work on Court of Owls maybe or something?
Yeah, he revived when Justice
yeah.
League Dark came back in Rebirth. He did that. He did some Wonder Woman.
He did do Night of Owls. Was the first? Yeah, that was his first arc.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then that's New 52, so that's even pre Rebirth stuff.
But then he's done other horror. Didn't he? He did House on the Lake, right? Was that the one? So that's another kind of horror comic.
You said you read that, right?
I read Nice House on the Lake. Really liked it. That was the first thing I remember reading of his.
Taking his name away from it.
Yeah. But also he's gay, and he's been nominated for like 8 or 9 GLAAD awards, which is like a record, but he's never won. I don't think.
What are they awards like for being gay or being gay and doing something else? What are the GLAAD awards?
GLAAD award is.
The GLAAD award. GLAAD is like I don't know if they're a nonprofit or what.
Yeah, Gay and Lesbian
Alliance
Advancement
Against-
Association of Denmark or whatever. I don't know what it's. Let me look up what it stands for.
It's Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, I believe.
Against
okay.
defamation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are an artist and you create stories around queer characters and LGBTQ characters,
They give you awards.
They give you awards.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the award isn't for being like the best gay. They're just
her
for representing
Erica's
gay
sexuality
and-
isn't like overtly
gay.
discussed, but she does have a.
No, but I thought. I mean, well, I don't know. We're gonna jump around, but there is James is gay, the boy,
Yes.
and I thought it was interesting because they kept picking on him because he had a crush on one of his friends.
Yeah,
And they're
that
all
was like I don't want
He didn't like you. He didn't like you because you think the
Yeah.
other kid is straight, but then it turns out the other kid is gay. He just isn't into James.
He just doesn't like
Yeah.
him.
Which that was like a twist I did not see coming whatsoever. I was like, oh,
I liked it though. As
I liked it too, but it seemed like it was going to be a stereotypical like
Right,
I'm straight. I'm not into that kind of thing, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he's like, no,
No,
I'm
I
gay too. I just don't like you.
Yeah, I enjoyed the way he did it that way more. I thought it was kind of more interesting to be. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's not right. Like Joe mentioned, it's not the archetypal. Oh,
right.
I'm a straight dude who's gonna rebut this homosexual advance.
This is
Like in the
apropos
50s.
of kind of nothing other than that the art's amazing. But the last 2 issues had special covers, so I got them, and this is what they look like.
Oh, they're great. That's awesome. Yeah.
Isn't that cool? Just for the last 2, I was like, I love
bandanas
that. Come
are really
on.
cool.
Yeah, and it's just so for the audience that's just listening, the cover's all black and it just looks like her bandana, and then the next one was white and had the black teeth on it.
Yeah.
But,
But let's
it was
talk.
really
So that's James Tynion the Fourth. Again, he could have just been named Robert Tynion. Would have been easy, just easy to name him that. But he's James Tynion the Fourth. But the artist, penciler, is a co-Italian of mine, Werther Dell-Edera, who's living in Italy, in Rome, currently.
his artwork in this is, I mean, I'll save that for my overall takes, I guess, but it's exquisite. I'll just stop there. But I don't
let's
know
just
his
do
work other than
overall. Let's just do overall takes.
I just feel
Yeah,
bad because we never mentioned the colorist, and I feel like
I was going to.
like
Yeah.
His name's Miguel Muerto, and his little blurb in the book, I read it digitally. It says, "Not dead. Miguel Muerto has lived in Barcelona since 1992, where he studied illustration, ran a small press, worked as a graphic designer, until feeling entitled to chase his dream doing comics. The Druid's Path was his first comic book, a traumatic experience he swore would never happen again. Coloring comics is the first good step he has taken in his career, happily following that path ever since."
His colors are spectacular and complement Werther's illustrations perfectly. So I mean, good job.
Yeah. So I think his name is not Miguel. There's a Q, so I think it's Miguel. Just a.
Listen, we're really bad at pronouncing people's names. That's just gonna happen.
if you haven't,
Like we're never gonna.
Well,
get
I
it
just
right.
wanted to say for listeners, I just wanted to, I don't want to offend anyone. I think he's Miguel,
Except
and also
for
he's
Robert Tynion, I'll get that right every time.
Miguel Muerto is also the 5th. Actually, he's the 5th. There's 4 other Miguels before him. Oh no, wait.
There's a really good.
They don't do
the compliments to the colorist in terms of scene changes. By the way, like there's some really good like even in the first issue, there's like it's nighttime. He's hanging out with his friends, and then they go out to the woods with like truth or lies or whatever, and like or truth or dare or whatever kind of thing. And then,
Joe, stop. Let's just do overall takes, and then let's just talk about it because
I'm talking about the colorist still.
Okay, but we've just thrown our structure to the ceiling fan.
If you just let me finish my sentence, we would have been
Okay.
done.
Okay.
And then like the next scene is like a police station, and it's bright white, and it's just a very good way that the colorist actually measures the scenes, and and took that into account. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the color. So overall takes. Hey, go.
Overall takes. Oh, am I
Yeah.
going first? Okay.
No, Patrick, you're not going first. Alessandro, go. Overall takes.
Okay, my overall take, I enjoyed it. I thought it's probably about a B. Like, it's good fun, and I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was amazing, but I thought it was a good production overall. Like, good writing, good art, good colors, just enjoyable.
Patty?
So that's
you
my
wanna go?
overall take.
Yeah, my overall take, I would give it an A. I don't think I can remember.
We're doing
I
letter
think
grades now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he did it.
That's
so
our
I
new
was
thing.
following
That's
suit.
our new thing. Now
Is
we
that
do
our new thing?
specific letter grades. That's our new thing.
Oh shit! I didn't come prepared.
I had never heard of this before you brought it up, and once I
Yeah.
started reading it, it really sucked me in. And as Joe mentioned, I'm current now. We are only covering the first 15 issues, but I'm read all the way to whatever it is, issue 31 or whatever it is. And also the spin-off series. I thought it isn't, we mentioned it's kind of it's got elements of, I think the elements of Buffy the Vampire Slayer are very prevalent. She's a blonde bombshell. She seems like she's a teenager, but I think she's like in her 30s.
Maybe
She's over 18. Definitely, we've established.
She was born in 1987.
She's over 18.
According to her fake ID, she made a Kinko, so I don't know how accurate that is. But
I wouldn't trust the fake ID, but she's definitely adult.
She made it at Kinko's, and it's like the guy's
it's
like,
not laminated. It's just printed. Yeah, it's just printed paper.
This is literally a piece of paper, and she's just like, yeah.
She goes.
Anyway.
He's like, "That's your name? Yeah,
yeah.
Erica Slaughter.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Anyway,
but so it's tropes you've seen before, right? Like, I'm sure it isn't the only story where kids can see monsters, but adults can't. I'm sure if I was more of a horror buff, I could think of other examples of that. In protagonists coming to save the day. I just thought the way it was paced out was fantastic, but it's one of those books again where the overall plot isn't something super interesting. It's interesting, but not something you haven't heard before. It's one of those books where I just felt like James Tynion is very good with the character work. He's very good with the dialogue. Erica Slaughter, when you first meet her, she is literally it's a little girl with one eye missing, sitting in like a Red Rider wagon.
And an arm missing.
And then Erica Slaughter shows up with her bandana that has the teeth on it, covering her mouth, and she's covered in blood, and she's got machetes. And that's when you first meet her. And then she has this back and forth little girl about like, are there more? And she says yes. And it's very interesting. And they feed you the right amount of tidbits to compel you to keep going. I kept reading because I wanted to know what was going to happen next. Erica Slaughter, I don't think I've ever been so obsessed with the character. I can't really even, maybe Scott Free from Tom King's Mr. Miracle is the last time I was so obsessed with the protagonist.
Yeah.
I think her intro was one of the best I've seen. Like I just said, she just shows up covered in blood with butcher knives. She looks like a monster herself.
Not butcher knives, machetes.
Machetes, yeah.
Like full on almost swords.
Yeah. She looks like a monster herself. The way she's got the crazy green eyes with the smoky eye with the which I don't think is supposed to be makeup. I think it's just supposed to be the fact that
I think it's supposed to be like a circle under her eye.
Yeah,
like she doesn't sleep.
She's literally a machine, and she kills a monster. She gets to call the next monster. She goes to that.
I don't know if I could sleep very well if I knew monsters existed and were murdering children all across America. And everywhere, I suppose.
Yeah. And the way that they draw her, like when she's fighting, I love how they draw her. And when she like does certain things, when she breaks Tommy Mahoney's arm and when she punches Aaron Slaughter out, like the way they draw her movements when she's punching someone or slicing something is just like, you can really kind of feel the power in her moves. I've kind of mentioned she's a bit of Buffy mixed with Jessica Jones. She's more likable than that. I felt like she's just like pure confidence and swagger, completely dedicated to her mission of just like saving kids and killing monsters.
Yeah.
Absolute machine. I loved how she interacted with James, the little boy, who I guess maybe he's like a teenager. How old is he? Like 14, maybe? I
Yeah,
think he's supposed to be in high school.
He's in high school, but I mean, who
think,
knows?
but I think between 12 and 15,
Yeah.
somewhere in that
like,
range.
Maybe
I don't know
freshman in high school,
specifically.
or maybe he's in middle school and he's old, like 14 or something. I don't know.
Maybe he was
kinda
held
like how
back.
she-
Maybe he's kind of a dumb
Yeah.
kid who was held back.
Maybe he's
a few
dumb.
grades.
Maybe he's dumb.
Yeah.
We never considered that.
But she just, she allows him to kind of tag along, knowing that he's going to get in trouble anyways. But the way she talks to children compared to the way she talks to adults is fantastic, because she's not very tender with the kids, but she kind of respects
She
them
speaks to
and
them
talks
on
to
an
them.
adult level, and then when she's
Right.
talking to adults, it's like, yeah,
Yeah. She's
yes,
like, shut the fuck
no,
up. Yes.
she's basically like, fuck off, like you don't even know what's going on.
But more than that, I mean, she basically reverses. She treats adults as if they were children. Like, you're a
Yes,
dummy who
basically,
doesn't know
because
what's
they're
going
the
on,
dummies
so I
that
will
don't
brush
know.
you off. Right.
Yeah.
And then children she treats as if they do understand, which is true, because they see the monsters. Right. But it's an interesting kind of reverse of the traditional way we interact with adults and children, how she treats them. Yeah.
And then, I mean, just to again, just with the tidbits, she's this total badass warrior, but she has a stuffed animal octopus that she carries around with her.
Mhm.
And it's like, what the fuck is that about? Like, it's just, the book was great. I'm obsessed with it. I will keep reading it. This has just made me a fan of James Tynion. And overall take is that it was fantastic.
Okay, and I'm sorry, that was an A.
A plus,
We need
I guess. I don't know.
A
Okay,
plus,
we do need
plus.
we need a letter
96.
grade.
96.
No, not numbers. No, not numbers. We need a letter grade.
He said A. He said A at the beginning.
Okay, so-
Yeah, I give it an A for sure. Can we give pluses? I give it an A plus.
Yeah, we can do pluses. We can do plus minus. That's fine, but just not a number.
My brother told me about this book, so he also reads comics. Obviously, we grew up reading comics together. We're my little brother doesn't keep current with comics as much as my older brother and I do, but he will randomly be like, "Hey, I'm reading this random book. You probably haven't heard of it, but it's really, really good." And he had suggested this book to me like several years ago, and I probably when it was like pretty early in its run. I mean, maybe like 12 issues in or something like that, but like pretty early. But I didn't read it because I was lazy. So I was just like, hey, why don't we read this? And I was so I wasn't surprised it was good, because he doesn't usually go out of his way to be like, hey, read this thing, that you've never heard of. But man, I wasn't expecting it to be this good, because I really, really liked this book. And the pacing of it is so good. Every issue has like a cold open in a sort of a way, or like almost like a prologue prologue. And then like, there's always a giant splash page that's like, something's killing the children. And then you get into the rest of the meat of the issue. And it's just really, really good. There's like the pacing of the writing is just draws you in, and makes you keep reading. Like I felt like I didn't even have a choice. I was like, well, next volume. Yeah. Oh, I finished what I was supposed to read for this podcast. Next volume. And I just kept going to the point where I got to the end of the free volumes on Comixology, and I was like, I don't care. I'll pay more money. But yeah, it's really good. I really loved it. Specifically, this story arc, I thought did a really good job of teasing what will come later, and like more knowledge about what the House of Slaughter is, or like where she comes from, and like what all of the things are. But at the same time, staying focused on just what she's going through in this town. So again, I can't stress enough how like good the pacing of the story was. I feel like it was just like so well written to like draw you in further with each volume as it went.
Yeah.
Erica's introduction, as Patrick said, was flawless. Like this little girl that's like clearly been through hell, and you're like, what is that about? And then she walks out of the woods covered in blood with the machetes, and her one eyeball that's not covered up by her hair, which is a classic move of her, is just piercing this kid out of the corner of her eye. And she looks fucking terrifying with the mask up and the teeth on the mask. And you're like, holy shit. That girl is going to kill you, or this woman's about to kill this little girl. And then she just walks over, drops her knives and walks over and drinks water. And you're like, I don't know what's happening right now. The monster designs I thought were really interesting, because there were times when they were very solid and you could kind of see the shape of them, and they were like I don't know, like an alien from Alien, or like it was the kind of shape of a big black monster that you could kind of get your brain wrapped around. And at other times they were blurry and obscured, almost like coming from the kid's imagination. Like it's not necessarily a solid form. It kind of like changes shape. The art is fantastic in terms of like getting subtle nuances across in the writing that's not there in the writing, but like you're involved in here, like seeing what's going on as much as you are in reading it. Like the fluidity of the motion, and like as Patrick was saying, with like the way when she would hit, it wasn't like the classic like the fist coming out of the panel. It was like her fist was smashing down. It was like the momentum of her body had already finished, and like the other person's body is flying across the room or something. And it's just really fantastic in terms of the action and stuff. And when she is fighting monsters, for instance, her body just contorts and like her limbs are whipping around like she's an octopus or something. Like, like kind of like, oh, weird. That's funny. I never thought of that until just now. She also has an octopus. But at any rate, like the rubbery limbs during the action scenes don't seem silly because everything else seems so real the rest of the time. Like, you know what I mean? It just means like, oh, that means motion. That means like ferociousness or veracity. The art, although it's real life in terms of like there's no capes and tights, it's very cartoony, but the world is like kind of grounded and felt real. So it somehow didn't feel disjointed. I don't know how he married like, let me draw this kind of caricature of a human and put them in real clothes, but then also put like a real car that they're standing next to kind of thing. And it didn't feel like odd or anything. Anyway, fantastic. Loved it. Loved the writing. Loved the colors. Loved the art. A+++++.
All right, so we've got letter grades from all. So let's talk about the art for a minute, because I had just an opposite reaction to
really
that.
Oh, interesting.
The art was strange to me. So generally, a lot of the panel composition felt very manga-like, actually, because it was a lot of smaller panels in a page and just rows of panel, 3 rows of panels. It just felt very manga in panel construction.
It's very blocks.
And he also just so little detail or seemingly time spent on background at all. Everything's very bare. Everything looks like an N64 game where it's just this wide open parking lot or a field, or there's just nothing happening. And that part didn't really resonate with me very much. It's also it's this weird. It showed up best when they're shopping for chainsaws.
Okay.
But it's a weird thing where it almost looks like South Park, where there's like a 2D background and then just a 2D figure. There's no like layered depth to the image. It's just a 2D background with a 2D person kind of moving around. I don't know how to describe it. But it just, the layering of the characters in the background felt strange to me.
I mean, I don't. That's interesting that you can't. Like, I'm just flipping through, and I can find many, many examples of how that's not the case. But
the chainsaw one is like the most apparent.
One is jarring,
I think it's the outline.
With that in mind, and you showing me that, I can see where you're coming from. But
and then in terms of the monster design, so Erica's like familiar. I didn't read further in, so I don't know what it is. But she has this sort of familiar monster and an octopus that follows her around.
Yeah,
that was interesting. It's sort of a Venus flytrap opening into a creepy goblin child. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's like a goblin child with a Venus flytrap with octopus legs. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of fascinating. But the other shadow demons that she actively hunts in this arc, I found completely uninteresting. They're just kind of spider-legged shadow monsters that I just didn't really care. I just visually didn't find them at all interesting or scary or anything. They were just bleh.
I
sort of
agree
design.
with you on that point because the way it starts is James, who is kind of the kid we've been talking about, that is kind of Erica's not sidekick, but he's following her around a lot. He's one of, I guess
he's the one who witnesses 3 kids get murdered, and it kind of starts the impetus of the story.
So he's telling, the way it starts is he's telling these kids it's truth or dare, truth, like what's the scaredest you've ever been. James starts talking about this monster, and he kind of goes into a little bit of detail of it. And the monster, like I envisioned in my head, was way scarier than what the actual monster ended up being. But they reveal what the monster looks like relatively early, which I think was a good call because I didn't, if they had teased it till the end and it was that was the character design of the monster, I was like, well, that's kind of underwhelming. But I think this was more about kind of developing Erica and like the entire kind of world. I will say we're not talking about it, but as it goes on, they get into there's different types of monsters. The monster they're fighting in this run is called an Oscura type. And she fights a different type of monster in the next run. And then the monster in the next run really kind of terrified me.
It is, I agree.
I don't know if it was intentional that the monsters weren't necessarily like I mean, they're scary.
I think so. I mean, the word type is at the end of all the monsters. Like the next one is a duplicit type, for instance, and like. I think the idea there is that there's going to be many versions, and like this is just one random version, which is why I was kind of like, I think the idea here is that it's not necessarily a solid shape all the time, and they can kind of like fade into the shadows and like, you know, kind of thing. And I think and that comes across a lot, but you're right. When you do see a clear picture of it, it is mildly underwhelming. You're like, oh, okay, it's just a big, like lumpy penis with spider legs, you know, with that's like all mouth and like spider legs or something, you know.
But they also, so 2 points to that. I mean, so one, I also want to qualify, because I know everything I just said, I don't mean to say that the art is necessarily bad or the artist and colorist didn't do a good job. I just mean that the aesthetic they picked didn't really hit with me. I mean, they definitely, like I mentioned, there's clearly a manga influence. I mean, all the decisions they made were conscious, and they did a good job portraying those. I just mean subjectively wasn't for me that style. And then the monster design, you know, there was the edition I have is this kind of hardback book one, like 15 issue edition.
Yeah, that's we're reading 1 through 15 for the issues, by the way.
Yeah,
and
it's
then
the Archer's Peak.
That's either volumes 1 through 3 or in deluxe version like Al has. That's all of it.
Yeah, but in the back after all the issues, they have some creator commentary, interview stuff. And one of the things that James Tynion the Fourth mentions is that
Robert Tynion?
I mean Robert Tynion the First.
Yeah.
But so he'd done. I think the House on the Lake. Well, he'd done the House on the Lake, I think, before this. So he talked about writing horror for comics, and one point he made is that, you know, in contrast to film, a jump scare just isn't going to work in a comic book. It's really hard to do sort of a classic film jump scare in comic book. So a point he made is that instead of focusing on making something look scary or jump out at you, it's more about just building dread and that kind of persistent feeling of fear as you read or what's coming and the violence that's about to happen. Because that's really the best you can hope for in the comic medium, because things don't just... Yeah. It's just hard to get, you know, like an It film jump scare. Yeah.
There's a little girl hiding in a closet, and it's horrifying because you're just like, oh, God, please get out of this house, you know, because like she's clearly hiding. She's got blood on her, so clearly other people are murdered already, and she's hiding. And she doesn't make it. And you're like, oh shit, that was really dark. Like, but it built to that tension of like, she's running down the hallway, she's getting down the stairs. Like in any movie, it would probably be either the person gets out and runs to safety, or, you know, it's a jump scare kind of thing. But in this, it's just like, no, the monster's just kind of just coming to get you. Like you're screwed.
Yeah. Well, I think
you know, and you can't get away. And I'm like, that is dark and horrifying.
Yeah, but I think for comics, you have to rely on that to set the horror than just the the film jump scare doesn't work. Have either of you read Lock and Key by?
Yes. I haven't. It's been suggested to me a lot. Though.
Yeah, I think it's Joe Hill. It's Stephen King's son, but I think his name's Joe Hill. Is there? But that comic, in contrast, tries to do jump scare. The first arc of it just wholesale rips off like dark-haired girls crawling out of wells, like from the ring. I mean, it's just complete. Really? It's just complete, just ripping off existing horror tropes. But that comic tries to do the sort of movie jump scare thing, and that's an example where it just doesn't really work because you can't really capture how a film can scare you.
This is a tangent then, though. Have y'all ever had like a jump scare or a very unsettling feeling when you've turned a page in a comic book and the next image is something really unsettling? Because I do. I have one that is at the top of my head. But
give us your example, and maybe I can think of
my example is when it's at the end of Dark Reign during Siege, and Norman Osborn is wearing the Iron Patriot armor, and I forget who he's fighting. Maybe it's Spider-Man, but the helmet comes off, and the next panel, Norman Osborn has painted the Green Goblin makeup all over his face. Like he's had the Green Goblin makeup on underneath the helmet. And there was something, because it's Olivier Coipel was the artist, and there was just something about that.
God,
when you
fantastic.
turned the page and saw that, it was like it made I got goosebumps because it was.
I think that's
traumatizing.
It's funny. It's because it depends if you're reading something digitally, I think, versus hand and paper, right, paper and hand kind of thing. But like jump scare, I guess it's not necessarily a jump scare, I suppose, but yeah, there are certain things that. If it's jarring enough and if you're not expecting it enough, like it can shock you when you flip the page and see something.
Yeah, I guess jump scare is not the right word for that. But
I was going to say it definitely comic images can be super unsettling. But it's not quite the movie jump.
Not that this is drawn, like I've said before, it's not like this is. I mean, it's not drawn super cartoony or anything, but like it's clearly not like. Brian Hitch level of realism either.
Right.
Yeah. However, there are like straight up scenes of kids just getting ripped to shreds. So like if that's not something you want to read, then I would suggest not reading it because it's not like there's one or two. Like it's like it continues through the book.
But did you? Well, so a question
just, like people getting ripped in half and arms getting ripped off.
Right, but to both of you. So I read those images, and it's so gratuitous that it didn't even affect me in any way.
I was going to ask about that. Like, how did you guys feel about the
Did
gore?
either of you
feel like real?
No, I just flipped through it. To me, it's just violence. Okay, violence. Let's skim through that.
That's sort of how I felt.
I didn't even feel affected by it.
That's how I felt for the most part. But Patty, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think it would be off-putting if it was too realistic. Because the blood and stuff is not. It's almost like painted on. There's no outline.
It's like red paint.
Yeah, you just see it's like the impression of guts and blood.
There's a couple. Like there's one scene when like James, the young kid who like spoilers spawns the monsters that are doing this. Like spawned the main monster that's doing this. And that's what we find out as the story progresses. Like the children are responsible via their imagination for like bringing these things into reality. So like they are ultimately at fault for their own monster sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which is horrible, devastating for them and the reader. But there's one scene where one of his friends is like, help, I can't feel my legs. And it's just like that classic like war movie scene where like the guy's guts
are scooping up his guts.
And it's like he was crawling on the ground towards James, and it's from that kid's angle sort of, but from behind him, and you can see his guts like trailing behind him. And it's like I wasn't like grossed out or anything, but I was like, oh God. Yeah, like I was like, that's horrible. I'm not in the sense of like, that's really realistic and I'm getting sick to my stomach. But the idea of it is so real that you're
I just had the opposite. Well, first of all, the James character, I honestly, all the flashbacks, I completely skipped those pages. I didn't even care. I have a thing. I mean,
you gave it a B.
No, but and this is a thing I understand. Again, I'm not saying this is a bad comic.
Beast still a passing grade, everybody. Everyone calm down.
But I don't want to make it sound like Tynion did a bad job writing this. It's just as a subjective reader, I have certain things I don't enjoy. One of them is the kind of audience stand-in blank slate protagonist who gets shoved into a situation and has nothing to do with like the world at large, but is just put there to be a stand-in for the audience so that the person who knows what's going on can just vomit exposition at this new person. I hate that in trope. I don't enjoy that. So characters like James that are just, I'm an innocent who knows nothing of what's going on. Erica, tell me everything. I don't like that. I don't care anything about that. It's the sort of the Shia LaBeouf in Transformers. I want a movie about
back on in the sense that she refuses to tell him stuff for the most part. Like she doesn't openly,
but she does tell him because that's the role that person has in the narrative.
Well, yeah, of course.
It's the same reason why in a trans,
but it's not like she sits down in one scene and goes, "This is everything that's going on." She just
she basically does that in two scenes. But it's the same reason why Transformers movies have to be about Shia LaBeouf and not about the giant fucking robots that we actually want to see.
Yeah,
I want to see a movie about Optimus Prime, not about Shia LaBeouf learning what the Allspark is.
Transformers the movie did that exact thing perfectly because they had like a little kid and then he wasn't really there. It was actually like Transformers for the first time, and I really loved it.
I get your point for sure.
No, I just to me, I don't like that trope of the ingenue innocent bystander who is just a proxy. So that you can get exposition fed to you. I don't like it.
So when Erica's handler comes later, I do like the reveal.
Okay, yes, I was going to bring this up. Yes,
that she was like letting James hang around her because she needed him to like lure the monsters towards her, and
it was covering her scent, I guess.
And also masking her. And I'm just like, because she knew she'd need him at some point. Like she was mostly sure that it was this kid. She wasn't 100%. She's like mostly sure that this kid is probably the start of it all.
Oh no, she knew.
And it explains
she knew. Yeah.
It explains like everything she did up into that point, I think, in a kind of a fucked up way, really. I mean, like, even though we come to find out her and Patrick mentioned it earlier, but like her main like thrust as a protagonist is that she's purely wanting to save these kids and the people around them, like, and the organization that she works for is more about secrecy and keeping this shit under like lock and key versus like, and not letting it get out to the public, and therefore endangering people's lives and allowing people to die to keep that secret versus like her that comes in and like wants to just say, and she's like, I don't give a fuck about the secret. I'm trying to save people. But at the same time, she's doing fucked up shit like, yeah, I'm going to let this kid kind of mask my scent as I hunt this monster through this small town.
Yeah, well, also that reveal it's
an interesting like dichotomy of the character, I think.
And that reveal also reflects back on, I think Patrick mentioned this, but the first scene we see her in is with this crippled little girl that she's helping. Mm-hmm. And then you realize, that was also bait.
That's what she was doing. Yes,
right, that's exactly what she was doing then.
And I think that's an interesting point to make especially when discussing James and his like, info dump purpose for being, so to speak.
It is. I mean, that is what James was there for, was so that you as the reader there, as opposed to just like having thought bubbles of Erica's thoughts all the time. She's talking to somebody. That was kind of his primary purpose, but I do think James kind of was aware of that and tried to use his character as a way to be like, show that Erica isn't necessarily like the 100%. I'm trying to protect every kid. It's more like I'm trying to protect the most kids possible. And then also, as when you learn about Erica's background, her interactions with James kind of make more sense, how he wanted to help get revenge and all that kind of stuff. Having him around kind of made more sense, but I do get Al's point that he was kind of the character that the audience is supposed to vicariously live through to understand the world. But I do think James Tynion did a good job of adding layers to that so that it wasn't completely.
Yeah, I agree.
It wasn't as bad as Shia LaBeouf in Transformers.
Thank
Right.
you.
What's going on?
Well, again, but I keep coming back to this point. But again, I don't want to sound like I'm saying James Tynion does a bad job as a writer on the comic. I just mean these are tropes that I don't work for me personally.
You know what it is, though? I mean,
I get what he's doing, and he does it well.
The modern comic taking on the more cinematic view of things, instead of having like narration and or thought bubbles, it's more cinematic in the sense of like, well, say this is a movie, they're not going to have a thought bubble next to a character. They're going to need exposition at some point. I mean, it's just that's just how writing works. Like you're going to need, and I think they've done that in a way in this book that like makes it at least one have story relevance. Like there's a reason she's keeping this kid around her. She's not just like letting this kid tag along and endangering him. So as a reader, we can get exposition. But two, it's delivered a little more cleverly than just like, let's just tell you everything that's going on in one fell swoop kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. But let's move on. Let's back up a bit, because one thing that is not a B in this comic is Miss Erica Slaughter, who is incredible.
Oh, yeah. I love her.
Let's talk about Erica Slaughter, because she was awesome. We've talked about this, but again, the braggadocio, the swagger with which she just lives her life is a thing of beauty.
It's funny because you guys call it swagger. I think she's just like good at her job and just does it. I don't like it. Doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like
she has zero time. But it is just the 0% of herself that she gets to dealing with people.
Of bullshit for dealing with the people that
she just none of her energy is spent to dealing with dumb people's bullshit.
Yeah,
and I respect the hell out of it. Absolutely. I wish I could live my life.
It's refreshing as fuck, especially as a character that I've never read before. Like you come in reading this and you're like, okay, what's this character gonna be like? And I was just like, I fucking love you. And it's only been like 2 pages, you know what I mean? Like kind of thing. And it wasn't just her introduction. It's like the first time she speaks to the sheriff of the town. We kind of already mentioned the license and like the way she just like walked over to the board that he has with like all the Pepe Silvia strings everywhere. And it's just like, yeah. Interesting. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to take over this investigation, and you're going to let me because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And whether you like it or not, I do. And I'm just like, oh, fuck yes, I love you.
As a quick, going back to the 1987 ID. So the cop says, so your name's Erica Slaughter. And she goes, yeah, Slaughter's a real name. But is it your name? And she says, yeah, sure. It says that on the card. And he says, well, this card is made of paper. And her answer is, yeah, so is this a social security card. Yeah. It's paper.
He's like, but this isn't a social security card.
And then he goes, and then the cop goes, you didn't even laminate it. And her answer is, yeah.
Her answer
is, I didn't laminate it.
Her answer is, yeah, period. And she's also not even looking at the cop anymore. She's like looking over her shoulder as if she's bored with the conversation.
She's already bored.
She's ready to go.
And it's so
she's the best. I
don't know how much we get of that in this specific arc, but like we come to understand that the House of Slaughter and the other houses, because there are other houses apparently, like have all kinds of pull with whatever like information systems they need to get into, or somehow they have connections
like
and
the
they can just like,
or something.
No matter what she says out loud can be erased from computers or whatever she needs to do. Like and like backstories can be written on the fly, and like she can just be like, and she can just walk out of a police station with like, I'm an FBI agent or whatever she needs to do, and the confidence with which she knows that's going to take place is what we're seeing in that scene. And I think that, and it hasn't even been explained yet, and I fucking love it so much. Like she's just like, yeah, whatever. Anyway,
and also going back to I think it was Patrick first made the Jack Reacher comparison. But it's one thing that Jack Reacher does is that kind of
just Reacher.
A Reacher, right? Even his mother called him Reacher. We know that. That's a quote from the book. But one thing Reacher does is he just tells you things matter of fact. Like he will say his threat just as a matter of fact, this is going to happen. And Erica talks that same way. She will say, you're going to get a call, and then you're going to come in and you're going to say, Erica, you can go.
Yeah.
And, and the cops respond with like, well, that's madness. What does that mean? She goes like, just wait. And then that happened. But that's one example. But all of her interactions are that sort of, this is what's look, A, B, and C are going to happen. And I'm going to do, D, E, and F. And it just a matter of fact explaining the situation, what's going to happen. And then she does it. She just fucking does it because she's awesome.
And then that scene that you just brought up, to the cop's credit or the sheriff's credit, he lets her go after she says that because 5 more bodies turn up. And then she's leaving and he's like, what do I tell the person who's going to call me to tell you to release you? And she's like, tell him that he should have called sooner because 5 more kids are dead. Because
I
it's
forgot
like,
about that.
She's just so I just wish I could live my life the way I don't want to kill monsters, obviously, but I just wish I was so unbothered.
Killing children, I would gladly.
Well, yeah,
to hunt these.
I would stay out of it.
I would 100% do what she's doing.
I don't want to be involved with that.
I want to call back just another. So it's Erica Slaughter, more Erica Slaughter talk, but just the way she's designed, and we kind of mentioned her circles under her eyes, but she's got like scars on her body, like she's Bruce Wayne and has been Batman for 10 years. So like there's that, and that's like one tells a story, and you're like, oh, she's been doing this at least a little while, like kind of thing.
And B tells you she's definitely over 18, so it's okay. She's definitely an adult.
So on that note, though, I think she's built really awesomely. Like she's not like overly sexualized. She looks like a real, plausible human being. She clearly works the fuck out and murders monsters a lot. The scars are amazing. The circles under the eyes kind of like give you this sense that either she just doesn't sleep because she's got monsters around her all the time, or like this job takes a fucking toll on you with the way she finishes like a fight or kills a monster and is just like utterly exhausted afterwards. It's not like she's Superman. It's more of like a Die Hard situation where she's slowly getting chipped away at, and each mission, like who knows how much longer she'll be around kind of thing. Like, and clearly she doesn't give a fuck about that. And it's all about saving as many kids as possible. And that the essence of that character is just like, I'm in 100%, it just makes me hooked.
Yeah. The monster fighting thing I thought was interesting because again, as someone who's watched a lot of anime growing up, and again, the style of this was pretty manga-esque. So I was expecting a lot of sort of magic rules or ability, esoteric comic abilities specific to this to be brought up. She just buys chainsaw at a hardware store.
Visceral.
And she just fights with chainsaws and a knife. That's all. There's nothing magic or... Yeah, I just... Part of me assumed at some point she'd say, this is how I summon my earth chakra to fight monsters. But no, she's just, I'm going to buy power tools and fucking kill it.
Going back to the pacing, though, like you and what they reveal, like I said, I'm caught up current and I've read the spinoffs and I'm still not sure. I'm like, the totem she has, the octopus with the demon inside of it.
Yeah.
You don't really
monster.
We're told that it helps her with hunting monsters, but we're not really sure what it does. So like, we don't really know, because what she's able to do is like, either she's a amazing athlete and just stellar, bloodthirsty, physically like Olympic level athlete.
I assume that the training she's undergone, assuming is the clear word here. I'm assuming the training she's undergone either somehow involves you like channeling through like with your totem and somehow doing slightly superhuman things, or their training is just fucking insane and they're just machines.
So I thought the totem is just more because it's insider info. I'm a monster.
That's kind of
I
what
give
it
you
is.
info on how monsters work.
What on the surface, I'm not saying. So even in the next story arc, like we're not you don't get like a whole lot more on that ground. So like there's nothing to reveal or anything. But that's not to say that there won't be more revealed later, you know. So like I don't know for sure. But
Well, it's also I think she just naturally was like a badass, right?
yeah, well, so I don't know how much we want to get, like they don't really touch on her origin in this arc. So like
Yeah, but you can go. I mean,
do
if you know
learn-
more, I think it's fun to talk about.
Well,
if
they
you
do,
Okay,
don't
so-
they?
know more about it.
They touch
not
on
a whole lot.
in the very first or second issue.
The arc directly following this is a flashback arc, and it's about basically her induction into the House of Slaughter, and it's like a
Okay.
5-issue quick thing.
And the
So
House
it's kind
of
of like a
Slaughter. So
prequel.
just the Order of Saint George is the organization
Yes.
at large hunting monsters, and Saint
Yes.
George is I think a originally British saint who became a saint because he killed a dragon, and somehow that makes you a Catholic saint. I'm not quite sure how
yeah.
that works, but okay.
Have you ever killed a dragon, Al?
No, but I'm not a saint.
You'd be sainted if you
Yeah,
had.
and I'm not a saint. But the Order of St. George, I guess, has different sort of houses within it, right? And the House of Slaughter is one of these houses.
the House of Slaughter is the American house, or the only American house left. I think there's other houses
Okay.
in different countries.
There's there's definitely like, so there's Cutter, right?
There's Cutter, and then there's Butcher,
And
which
Butcher.
I think Butcher was destroyed. I think, but
Okay. So I haven't read the spinoff yet.
they kind of allude to like other countries like do have dragons. Like in America, like dragons aren't like a big myth. But
Oh
like,
yes,
other
so like
countries,
the kids in America aren't dreaming up dragon monsters, you know,
Right,
like kind of
yeah.
thing. So all right, gotcha. That makes sense.
in America.
Oh whoa. So there's the only other tidbit I was going to say, Al, is that there's like a little tiny bit in her origin that's like when she was found by the hunter that was the Black Mask hunter that was going to kill her monster in that whatever town she lived in originally, came in and saw that she had like started to attack and kill the monster on her own as a child. So like clearly there's something different about this kid versus like the kid that she's run into that just watched all his friends get slaughtered, you know, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
there's something in Erica that made her mentor figure kind of go like, oh, you got the spark, kid. Like I gotta your whole
You got
family's already
Moxie.
been murdered. You got Moxie.
You
kid.
got Moxie, kid. You gold.
You're going places. I can't tell. But
But that
you know,
was so the
yeah.
monster that killed her family is the monster that's in her octopus.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
correct. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that they also kind of talked about in that is that when they go through a process of like recapturing their monster or like keeping it within their totem or whatever.
You
And-
tame it.
So yes, so one of the things that
Is
she
that
did differently
innuendo
was
for masturbation or something?
yes.
Mm,
One of the things that she did differently was that she allowed or like made her monster look still like a monster, and that like to remind herself that this is still a fucking monster. Whereas like a lot of people, I guess, within her house, or maybe it's widespread, tend to like humanize the monster and make it like it's a ghost or it looks like a person or whatever the fuck. But like hers specifically still looks like a monster because she wants to be reminded that it murdered her family. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be funny if they're like, well, Erica, why does your monster look like Ted Cruz? And she's like, I want to be reminded that this thing is terrible. I want to remember that this
We
is
don't
a
do politics
monster.
here. We don't do politics here.
Yeah.
look,
But one,
so there's-
I do want to go back just to her monster because basically my favorite panel in this whole 15 issues is she's talking to the little girl Bian about her octopus monster or something.
Yeah.
And she reveals that that monster is the monster that killed my family. And I think the little girl asks, "Oh, is it still dangerous?" And then the panel is a close up of her monster itself answering with yes.
Yeah.
That was very
Fantastic.
creepy. That was my favorite little segment of the whole 15 issues.
Well, while we're on the topic of Beyond, who is it Beyond? She's she's a little girl that was captured by the monster but not eaten. So she's been in this cave.
Yeah, she
with the
turns up in
monster.
the cave when they find, so James and Erica track the monster to a cave and they go in and there's like a bunch of slaughtered children in a pile and it's fucking horrifying. And then within that pile, out from behind a pile of dead children, comes this other child, Bien, who is not dead, and is like, "Oh, hey guys, are you here to save me?" Kind of thing. It's she's gone through some real dark shit and is handling it the way most kids I think would, and either embracing it and burying it deep.
I would say she's the most terrifying character in the first 3.
It's very terrifying. Yeah.
I kept waiting for like the other shoe to drop with her being like, she's been helping them.
I'm also a monster.
Exactly. Yeah, I kept waiting for some reveal of, she's been living in that cave for 20 years or something, and she is working with monsters. Like, she's been
don't you think the octopus would have told Erica, guys? I mean,
I don't know, but I agree with Patrick. The way Bien was presented, I kept expecting some kind of reveal of,
that's funny. I didn't
something
get that at all.
terrible happened to this child.
Oh, really?
And she is.
I was the fact, because the big reveal is that Erica goes into the cave to kill this monster, and then she figures out that the monster is a mother and has given birth to like 5 other monsters, and the little girl Bian is like protective of the baby monster. She doesn't want.
Yeah, she's like, they're just babies. They didn't kill anybody. They're just getting food, or whatever. That's the big mom like, that's horrifying or whatever.
The way she was so desensitized to everything after they'd rescue her was just very unsettling to me. But and the way
panel
she
that's on screen right now is like, how long have you been in here? A long time. A long time. You're like, oh fuck.
Well, that's what got me. Also, the fact that the local police doesn't know who she is or who her family was. I thought there was going to be some reveal of she's actually somehow involved.
Maybe it was supposed to be like a red herring that I just like I took at face value for whatever reason. But like,
I don't know.
Part of my brain maybe is just like, as a father, I'm just like, protect that person. I don't care what's wrong with her. I don't know. Maybe I just was like, I believe you, small child.
I have a
go ahead.
Random note on the first volume before we move on to deeper into the story. Going back to like the character work, I loved the principal of the school that James goes to, because James like has to go see.
Oh yeah, the principal is a cool principal.
He was amazing. The principal's like, this is totally fucked up. He starts crying in front of James. He's like,
also the brother of the sheriff that's like in charge of the morgue or whatever, the mortician, is also like weirdly interesting. And I was like, and he was barely like kind of there really, but like I really loved that side character.
The thing that's interesting is all of these local, well, not all, but the sheriff, the coroner, and the principal. It's weird because they're these local men with local power, but they also seem very aware of their own impotence in the situation. And just like they immediately at face value just take Erica and the Order of St. George's, whatever they say and the help they offer, they go, sure. Because they just seem to have this face value, real self-awareness of, I can't do anything in this situation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of refreshing because usually, going back to, for example, Reacher, local powers are very involved. No, but they're typically in a story like this.
No, I'm just laughing because like the amount of time
we brought up Reacher a lot. We talked a lot about Reacher,
like at all, and like the amount of times we've talked about Reacher on this episode is just maybe.
Yeah, but I just mean in a standard story like this, the small town person with no power would do everything he can to sort of. No, I'm in control. You do what I say, right? But in contrast, in something is killing the children, all of these sort of local potentates are just seem so aware of I'm powerless right now. In Rambo, for example, the local sheriff just puts Rambo in jail because he's like, I'm gonna alpha flex.
Oh yeah.
And make up for my impotence in the face of all that's going on by just overcompensating. And these small town people don't do that at all.
Very refreshing because, like, at that point, when they get haircuts, like 20 fucking kids are either dead or missing in this like small town.
Yeah,
like, I would take any help I could get. And there's, I have this woman.
Like, clearly, the sheriff is like, I think I have a serial killer or something because he has like little strings connecting pictures on a board. But like.
Well, he does. I mean, we've established by the end of this that Tommy Mahoney has murdered 25 little children.
Let's talk about Tommy. Woo! Tommy.
Let's not talk about Tommy. I have even less to
he's
say
the
about
worst.
Tommy than I do about James. He is such a useless beta cuck soy boy loser.
Yes, and I love the way Erica treated him. Like she just
100%.
like shit.
I love
this
that they
dude-
set
this
him
dude
up
is-
in a way to like he's like almost like he's gonna be joining her in a way. Like she gives him the little
Yeah.
stamp on the side of the head that lets him see the monsters. Like
Yeah.
she breaks his arm, but he's like, I'm taking charge. I'm gonna find my sister, and like all this stuff, and like all the things. It's like the classic almost setup of like bringing on an apprentice, or like he's gonna be like she's gonna die in this, and he's gonna be the next monster hunter or something like that. And it's just not that at all.
But he's also
just
he
a fuck
really
up the whole way.
Tommy really channels sort of American just
Machismo.
like loser energy. You know, this just sort of he's like the B-list night manager at the Applebee's or some shit. That's his
he's
role
so
in
much more
town.
than
He's
that.
just such a
You don't understand who Tommy is.
yeah.
Well, I love
He's a big deal. He's a big
He's a
deal.
big
in
deal.
town. He's a big deal. in
He's
town.
a big
No, but
fish in a small town.
But
you know what I mean?
I just think he's a very good representation of just this sort of like American male insecurity of like, I'm important here. You better get out of my restaurant. I know what's going on. I'm going to save my sister. I'm going to help my mom and my sister. I'm going to do this and all he does is shoot fucking James in the stomach and get his arm broken. That's all he achieves. That's all he's able to achieve because he is just a loser. And the only I guess at the end, spoilers or whatever, but the one heroic
we're talking about his whole arc.
Yeah.
There's no spoilers.
But at the final end of this, the one heroic act that he's actually capable of doing is just passively taking the blame for something somebody else did that he didn't actually do because he, again, is this insecure American het male. Like he's incapable of actually taking effective action. All he can do is take the blame for the effective action something else has done. That is the sum total of heroism he can actually do.
I was about to say I do want to shit on Tommy a lot because he's terrible, but I will say
he's awful.
He's awful. A pretty big redemption moment for him at the end because the Order of St. George, they were going to murder everyone in the town because they'd all seen weird shit happen and they want to keep their secret. So him kind of sacrificing his freedom to keep the town safe was a pretty big character development beat. But
Patrick, that goes with that same subversion because a traditional hero in that role would be able to fight off the Order and save this town and just say, leave us alone because I'm Reacher.
I don't know.
You're going to leave us alone.
But he's not Reacher. America is.
But that's the point. But that's the point. He's not Reacher. But that is exactly the point. He is not that role. He is...
He slowly realizes he goes from assaulting. He grabs Erica in the Applebee's when they first meet, and she slams him into the counter and is like, "Don't ever fucking touch me again." Then he grabs her again in the hospital, and she breaks his fucking arm. And then she gives him the ability to see the monsters, so he's kind of the lookout when everything's going down. And then he's seeing the monsters, and then he sees the Order, the white masks from the Order of St. George show up, and it's this weird de-evolution from alpha male, posturing to like, oh, I'm like a nobody in this, and the best I can do is just say I'm the creep who murdered all these kids. Like that's all. That's the maximum amount of influence I have over the situation.
Yeah, well, he did. I mean, the state of being that all these middle-aged men in town are already at is what takes him the whole arc to realize, right?
Well,
but the mayor, I mean, not the mayor, the principal, the sheriff, the coroner, are all these paunchy 50-year-old men who realize how little power they have in this world. And it's just Tommy gets there during this arc is when he realizes I'm also just a useless man. I just loved
the way Erica would talk to him. I think Al, you sent us a screenshot of the one panel because Tommy's little sister has been taken and eaten by the monster. So he says something to Erica like, I've earned it. I deserve to know what's going on. And Erica's like, you haven't earned a fucking thing, Tommy. And then after that, they're in the cave and Erica's about to kill
I think
the
that sums
monster.
them up pretty well, you know?
Yeah. And Tommy shows up with the gun to kill Erica because the dum-dum thinks she's the serial killer. She's like, what are you doing? She fights him. The gun goes off, shoots James in the stomach. And Erica's cradling James and Tommy's freaking out. And very plainly, Erica just goes, Tommy, listen, this boy is going to die if you don't stop fucking everything up. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that line. But again, it goes back to what we mentioned about how Erica treats adults as if
There's
they
also-
were the children, right? She just tells
yeah.
Tommy, talking to him as a child, like, Tommy, you need to
are a
focus
child.
on, right,
Yeah.
like, this kid is shot, focus on doing that.
The best part
rather
about
than-
that is when he's like firing the gun like an idiot. Like, I mean, well, I said idiot, but that's literally what she calls it. It's just a panel of her flipping around fighting the monster and a bunch of bullets ripping through the monster, and she just says idiot. Like it's just her saying idiot while she's dodging bullets that he's just going like monster and shooting into the air, and it's goddamn, man.
Well, I also love her reaction before all of she spouts this just wonderful dialogue at Tommy. He takes out a gun, and at no point does she actually view him as he's going to shoot me. I better watch
he's
it.
zero threat to her.
Right. She, again, treat it like a child with a squirt gun, right? Is the way she treats him, is just this, you don't know what's going on, and you're just a helpless creature flailing in the wilderness. You're no threat to me. I need to, worry with this monster and manage you to the side while I deal with a monster.
Yeah.
I just, again, Erica
that is literally
incredible.
what is happening. Like the monster's in the background, like recovering from Erica's chainsaw wounds while she's trying to get Tommy to like get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
My last favorite interaction with Tommy and Erica. So after they get out of the cave and kill the mother monster, James is in the hospital, like in a coma, and they're both looking over him. And Tommy goes, he looks kind of peaceful. And Erica just side eyes him and goes, no, he doesn't. Tommy goes, okay, so he doesn't. I thought it was like one of those things you say. And Erica says, you say it about the dead. James isn't dead. How blunt she is and how big of a piece of shit he is just, I love the banter between the two of them.
Sorry, I have a correction. When he's shooting the gun randomly because he can't see the monster and he's basically aiming at Erica, she says, "You fucking idiot."
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it was she said, "Fucking idiot."
So, I mean, it's partly an expository moment, I suppose, in like the reveal that she like has the little stamp that allows him to see the monsters, and that's sort of like, oh, that's why Erica can see the monsters. Like, I get it. Like, so because the idea is that like, I assume once you hit adulthood that you can't see monsters anymore.
Yeah.
Like, but they all have like a little diamond shaped scar on their head, which is why her hair flips down on the one side and like, kind of thing, covering that scar up. But she gives Tommy that ability, like, and it's again, it's probably for the audience to be like, oh, she, that's how she can also do this, kind of thing. But she does it out of necessity because he's such a fuck up that she needs him to see what's going on so she can like retain like dominance of the situation, kind of thing.
Well, she needed him to take the two kids out of the cave.
Yeah, and she was like, I need you to stop thinking I'm the killer for 5 seconds just to save these kids. And I'm willing to fuck this secret over of the House of Slaughter and the Order of St. George just to save these kids, knowing full well that this means you'll probably be murdered later by my...
Well, which also, like, apparently it was like a huge deal because apparently that's what gets her in like huge trouble with...
It is, yeah. Well, that amongst other things, but yeah, that's one of the big things.
Well, let's talk about the other. So I
wait. I have a real quick art note.
Okay.
When she hits him with the thing that in the side of the temple, the art, he has like flashes of like what's going on. Like he has a flash of like the table with the main dragon guy, and there's like probably the heads of the different orders within the house, like the blue and the red and the silver handkerchiefs, like masks. And it's like scratchier and And I just really enjoyed that. Like, there's also a bit with like her having a flashback, where like maybe James is just asking her about like how she started doing this or something, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, you don't want to know about that." But like, there's quick flashbacks of her as an early like monster hunter and as a child, and just like covered in blood and have knives and stuff, and like the scratchier outlines of the panels and the way the art sort of looks less finished. I kind of enjoyed. It was just a cool art note. That's all. Also, other real quick art note. I really love the panels where there's an adult in the room, so to speak, and Tommy's one of them. But like she's fighting a monster or something's happening with a monster, and the adults in the area can't see anything, and they don't draw the monster. And I really like just love those panels because it's just like invisible monsters. Just there's blood coming out of nothingness, so there's blood coming from somewhere that's not Erica, and then also she's getting hit or something, and her head's flying backwards, and it's just an interesting. I really liked those panels. It was just really fun to see it from an adult perspective, like where they don't, because as the audience, you can see everything. So like you're aware, but well, like it's really fun to put it from the perspective of an adult. It lends itself to their confusion, you know, like as to what the fuck is going on. Cause they're just seeing like kids getting ripped in half. And I don't know. I think
there are, there are a lot of panels that I think are really effective and work well. Another one I liked was when they send the white masks to kind of clean up the high school or the school, what's going on there. And it's Tommy out in the parking lot because he's out there looking for monsters. And the panel is just, he looks in the woods and there's just white bandanas in the distance. And then the next panel is there's people with white bandanas just standing there looking at him.
Here you go.
And that's a very, that's a very sort of, very effective kind of creepy moment. You know, and because especially, I think that the comparison is pretty clear of, what are monsters? What's scarier, the monsters or what are these?
Or the hunters.
They also look like monsters. Like what's happened? There's different human monsters and monsters in those.
That theme's explored in the second arc as well. Yeah. So I do enjoy that aspect of this.
But I like a lot of the House of Slaughter characters. I liked. He died really early, but Aaron's character I thought was really interesting because he came in as sort of the company man, but then also seems to have a well-established relationship with Erica and ends up helping her do what she needs to do. It was just interesting because when he's first introduced and interacts with her, you think, okay, this is the company man here to keep her in line, and it's going to be a conflict. And he does do some kind of dickish things.
He does some but there are dumb things, but more things that are like in line with the House of Slaughter's like method of secrecy or whatever. But the way she's like, hey, you fucking asshole, there's kids dying. And he's like, fuck. All right, fine. And he eventually just goes along with it.
Yeah, but still, I do think the relationship between him and Erica that's displayed is really nuanced and has, it had a history to it. And nuance,
and the history involved. And it was like, but there was part of it that, because of that, you're like, you almost like not identify with, but appreciate his character so much more than maybe you would based on how much screen time he has, which is almost nothing, but because the rapport is so clearly written, I feel like their relationship is so nuanced that it adds a certain like depth to his character, like right off the bat. And I don't know, I really liked him right away. And he also like 2 seconds later.
Yeah, he's only had maybe 2 issues before he dies. But he also treats adults like children, but as kind of like an asshole parent who doesn't even talk to the child, whereas Erica tries to kind of massage the situation with the adult child. Aaron is more just like, don't even talk to, like, go to the kids' table. He's also
walking around with the pretend authority of like, I'm from the government or whatever. Like, so the local sheriff is like, he's like with Tommy for a second and he's like, yeah, I'm going to murder this kid, but I don't want you to see it. So go on out of here, sheriff. And he's like, okay. I guess I'm gonna leave now, kind of thing. Like there's a weird like, yeah, you're the guy that I talked to on the phone, so I guess you're in charge, like kind of. It's really weird and interesting. I love that.
Well, Aaron bashed the older woman in the face with his cane, like as soon as he got there. I thought that Aaron and Erica, which I'm just saying it out loud, I didn't realize how similar their names are. They do have like a sibling type relationship because is it Jessica? Is Jessica the one that
Jessica's her like her mentor or whoever brought her in. Yeah.
Jessica is kind of the parental figure to both of them, which we don't know much about her at all in this, and we just know that she's dead. And they it seems like out of their mutual respect for her is what keeps
them working together. Yeah, I agree.
Working together
and,
in the way they do.
And we only get like a hint of Jessica in this arc, but yeah, you definitely, but again, that all that history feels there already. You know, like it doesn't feel like I'm like learning about this character and then later on we'll explore him. You know, like kind of thing. Like I feel like I know him already. You know, like the way it's written, and I really loved that actually.
And I think that was that's what was so jarring when Aaron dies, because it did feel like
because you're like, holy Aaron shit,
had this like long history, and when Aaron is like, this is what I'm gonna do, and
I think like I don't know who says it, but either James or Tommy or someo's like, oh, he's gonna protect us, and she's like, that's not what this is. You know, like when he's running off to die,
right. Yeah.
And I was like, what's that? Oh, and then he's like, he runs out to face the monsters. And I mean, she even says beforehand, she's like, you can't fight them. Like, you haven't, when was the last time you left the house? You know, like kind of thing. Like, you haven't done shit in years.
Well,
I
don't know how, I haven't read beyond this arc, so I don't know if this is a theme throughout. But Aaron, to me, just seemed like Exhibit J of continuing male impotence in this world.
Oh,
he's another guy who's like, oh no, I passed all the exams, I'll be fine.
It's more like the brother.
Then he just gets killed right away by just immediately. He even says like, oh no, not so soon, as he's being murdered.
No, he says not so soon in terms of I wanted to fight longer, but because his arm gets taken off, and he says,
but that's what I mean. Even given that his goal was to sacrifice himself, he couldn't even achieve buying them enough time.
Yeah,
because he's like, oh, not so. So again, it just seems like we're just bombarded with impotent male figures in this world.
I don't know. I don't really
achieve anything.
I think that for him, that was again elevating Erica's ability as a hunter, because he was like, if I die, you're still going to figure this out. If you fucking die right now, then we're all dead because I'm going to die.
Yeah, he does say that. I mean, he does express that, right? But I mean, my point is that even though his end goal was to sacrifice himself so Erica could live, he still couldn't really buy her as much time as he wanted to.
He's one of those people. In future in the House of Slaughter, there's like a flashback of him like kind of getting his teeth. So when you're recruited into these houses, you get a bandana, but you don't get your teeth until you like pass certain tests. And it's pretty much implied that Aaron is like typical Batman with prep time. Like if you give him enough prep time, like he'll plan out something where he's good at setting traps and things like that. But when it comes to just like brute physical force, he's not the one to be fighting monsters. So he's not Batman. No, he's one aspect.
He's the planning aspect of Batman.
He's more of a Shikamaru
in
Naruto, right?
Yeah.
He's just a planner, strategist.
Yeah, a Kurama from Yu Yu Hakusho, if you will. But yeah, when he's like, die you horrible little, and he's like, no, not yet, he gets his arm bitten off. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is happening?
You know what? So one aspect of the relationship that's very clear before you ever even see Aaron is that every time her phone buzzes, she's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, I wouldn't,
you know, like like literally has her head up in the air. The posture she has, by the way, the nuance in like human mannerisms that he gets across in his art is chef's kiss. Like fucking amazing. Like just little things like that. Like you can see her fucking exhausted. She's just like, fucking this guy again. And to her, it's like an annoying older brother, but we don't know that. Like, you know, kind of thing. And we're just like, oh, she really doesn't want to answer that phone. But like throughout it, you feel like he's the boss. You know, like as she's talking to him on the phone, like he's the one who tells her to go to this town. He's the one who told her to go to the last town. He's the one who tells her how to do things. He's the one who gets her out of jail when she gets in jail, like, you know, kind of thing. And then the conversation between like him and Cecilia in the house, like, is very interesting because he's like, give her a fucking chance. Like, what are you doing? I know she's done some dumb things, but we can handle it. And like, it's fine. Like, give her time. You don't need to rush out there, kind of thing. I think that was an interesting, like, nuance to that character that you didn't see right away. Like, yeah, at first you saw it as like just like an annoying boss that you have to talk to in an email or something.
I did love Erica's relationship with her phone because I thought it was like it was kind of commentary on how we're all obsessed with our phones and she hates her phone. And like it rings one time and she just throws her head back and she just goes, fuck. And then it rings again while she's talking to someone. She just goes, this fucking thing. And she like, it's like, hello.
And talking about like, and so on the note of Aaron and also Tommy, like when he's getting told to go out to the field kind of thing. And he's like talking to Cecilia, who's a white mask, by the way, for the audience. But so not of the same like section of the House of Slaughter as Erica and Aaron. She's kind of more senior. So she's kind of telling him what to do and like talk to the head guy kind of thing. And he's like, well, what about Tommy? And she's like, well, he dies, of course, and he's like, oh, fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
Another
art
the
thing.
key being that her main note is that the House of Slaughter is done picking up strays, as in like Erica is this perfect example of why we should not be doing shit the way Erica does shit kind of thing. And the last thing we fucking need is Tommy Mahoney, random dickhead joining our order, kind of thing.
Well, he's going to do consecutive.
Really
he's going to serve consecutive life sentences in jail, so I think he's going to join any order.
We don't know. I do want to.
One art note: I love the House of Slaughter's just general style. How they have this sort of classic black tie, black suit, like IBM corporate
it's kind of
look,
like Men
but
in
with
Black
punk
kind of thing.
but with punk elements. Like there's this one woman who has kind of a schoolgirl skirt with combat boots. Under the jacket.
She kind of becomes a little bit more of a character later.
Yeah, that's Maxine, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like how they have sort of a classic corporate suit look, but with little punk elements that I enjoy.
Also kind of like a Kill Bill Crazy 88 feel too, like a little like, a little like,
very
let's all
so.
Run around with swords and like blood everywhere. And I really like it. I mean, like the House of Slaughter in general is such an interesting concept, I guess. I mean, has it been explored before? Sure. But like the way it's presented here it feels fresh and interesting and new. And I was like, oh, tell me more, kind of thing. The creepy head dragon guy with the gold mask, like
the dragon,
like, by the way, so the monster thing in the side of your temple that allows you to see the monsters as an adult, I was like, so Aaron's eyes are like orangey red, like red or orange kind of thing. Cecilia's eyes are red. Like the main dragon's guy's eyes are green, or at least one of them. I think he has two different color eyes.
Well, Erica has green,
and Erica has bright green eyes, and they kind of glow, and maybe this will be revealed later, and it actually means something. Like the colors mean something. Like they can see this, or they're better at this monster, or something. I don't know. Who knows? But like. They all sort of have the same glowing eyes, but they're not all the same colors. So like, I'm kind of like, I wonder if there's something behind the colors. I don't know what's going on there. But when you see them all together, it's like mildly like Erica's eyes are like literally like like she looks like a fucking vampire. Like she's super skinny. I mean, not Erica, sorry. Cecilia. So she has like the red eyes and the white hair, and she's super skinny, and she's got the white mask on with the dragon teeth, and you're like, you're fucking horrifying. Like, I don't understand how normal people see them walk in and go, oh, am I supposed to disconnect from that and go like, oh, well, they just see green eyes, but the red, I mean, like if someone walked in with glowing red or orange eyeballs, I'd be like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Aaron straight up looks like a vampire. Like
Yeah, he does. I mean, right. Those orange eyes just, looks.
And in the first couple volumes, it's a little toned down. Like sometimes it's drawn with a black outline and they just have like the color of like orange or red or whatever. But like as the series goes on, like most of them are just drawn with like bright fucking glowing eyeballs like at all times. And I'm just
Well,
like,
I
I don't
thought,
understand. Are normal people looking at those eyes? Or am I just seeing that going as an audience member going, oh yeah, those are the guys that can see monsters?
Well, when I
Because they
first
describe her
saw
eyes as green. I don't know. I'm confused.
yeah, when I first saw that, like, I thought it was related to their monster familiars.
Oh,
but then
maybe. Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
then Erica's
Maybe
is a
that's what it
yellow
is.
color. It's not a green color though. So that
Yeah.
it's
But
a
it could be the
different
type of
color.
monster she fought, though.
Could be. I don't know.
Maybe.
But anyway,
Well,
that's what
they
my
do,
mind went
yeah.
to. But then her monster is sort of a yellowish orange color.
So her actual monster is colored in that yellowish orange color, but the type is actually it's the same type as James, right? It's a Obscura type or whatever.
Obscura, yeah. That's why
Yeah.
Aaron specifically says, like, I know this type is.
Yeah, this
like,
means something
for
to
you
you.
or
Like, it's a big deal.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Also, I
go-
definitely want a House of Slaughter St. George tattoo. You know.
Yes.
I was
Me
like,
too.
I'm getting that tattoo. I got it.
I would be curious. I don't know if y'all watched Pose, if you've ever seen the documentary Paris is Burning, but like the houses are like
about like the
how they
Vogue
balls.
battle houses.
I was like, I was like, I wonder if James Tynion was kind of pulling from that to establish like the House of Slaughter and the House of Butcher and the House of whatever the other one is,
Cutter,
the House of Cutter. And how the houses are typically like led by a mother, and other than the dragon, it seems like predominantly it's women that are the most powerful out of most of the houses, from what I've read. So I'd be interested to know.
Well, also, I mean, again,
it'd be great if in later volumes they they introduce like the houses of Angie Extravaganza and Willie Ninja and all this. All these other like drag houses. Pepper the Beja.
I would be down for that 100%.
Well, on that, not to get too spoiler, but in like the next couple volumes, like they do kind of discuss that the House of Slaughter's head dragon guy is like super fucking old and basically like kind of looking at Cecilia as his successor, and he's sort of setting her up to be like the next head of the house. Story wise, the bodies are all brought to the morgue after they're taken out of the cave after Erica kills the mom. I'm sorry, not taken to the morgue, taken to the school gym, acting as a morgue because they don't have room in the morgue for all the dead bodies from the cave. So like the whole showdown towards the end of the book, or this arc, kind of, it happens around the school. It's kind of like there's a lot of parents there waiting to identify bodies. Like the whole town is sort of gathered. That's at least involved in what's going on. And the whole, I don't know. The whole story kind of ends with like, we have to hunt down the children. We have to draw the children somewhere. We have to kill the children of this mother monster. But also all these people are in danger because the dead bodies are going to draw the kids or the monsters to the children and the people that are there, kind of thing. Because that was like, the scent of the den, essentially, like where the mom had kept them in the first place. And that whole thing is pretty fucking horrifying. Like watching all those, depending on how pieces of shit they are as human beings, watching all those innocent people like being just like sitting in the parking lot, and specifically the little girl that they honed in on too much for my tastes to then illustrate the invisibility of the monsters to the general populace as she just literally got ripped in half. Like I was like, oh, okay, I need a minute. I'm gonna put this down for a second. Again, the gore isn't like too gory, but watching that little girl die, like I was like, oh fuck, okay. Like that was a bit much.
Well, it kind of goes back to that idea that it's almost scarier when you can't see the monster. Like once you see the monster, it's not as scary as what your imagination is. So when the monster is invisible from the POV of so like the adults can see the actions, like they see the little girl get lifted up into the air, like she's levitating, and then her body's just like cleaved in two. They can see that, they just can't see what's doing it. And then even Cecilia has her iPhone out, or smartphone, whatever. We don't know if it's an iPhone. showing the dragon.
It's definitely an Android. If you look at it, it's not. It doesn't have the bezel like an iPhone. It's an Android phone. It's probably like a Samsung. Honestly,
but she's like Aaron Slaughter. She's showing the dragon. She's like Aaron Slaughter just died, and his like people recorded it and uploaded it to Instagram and stuff like that. So they're trying to like handle that. But like it's a quick shot, and it just shows Aaron's body being like lifted up in the air by invisible forces, like being shredded, which was a little bit more unsettling than him actually being eaten by the monsters.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So we've been talking about for about an hour and a half. We good to wrap it up, or?
Yeah, my last point was just that the difference between the white masks and the black masks is that white masks are pack hunters, so they hunt together, and black masks
that
are
was pretty
hunters.
awesome.
So that's weird because I don't see color. So they kept mentioning different bandana colors, and I didn't understand what they were talking about. Because to me they're all the same. To me, they're all the same, just beautiful bandana, regardless of color. Okay, but so whites are pack hunters and blacks are lone wolves.
Well, and my point is just that the white masks they kill one of the babies, and it takes like a lot out of them. And then Erica kills 4 of them at the same time by herself. And that's
she's the best.
And it just, again, I think he just does a good job of kind of showing why she's on next level as opposed to just like saying why she's so badass. I mean, most people in our house hate her, but they can't really deny like that she's a natural talent.
Yeah, so I feel like some of it is jealousy though. It's not just that like she's a black mask and hunts individually. And it's not just that she breaks rules all the time and that pisses them off. I think that's just the thing that pisses them off and makes it easier to hate her. But there's a certain amount of like, fuck you for being able to do this by yourself. Like, like the white masks definitely have like a sense of like, we do what you do and we're just as good as you, but we need other people around us to accomplish it, which is just smart in a way. But at the same time, you're like, I think there's a certain amount of like, fuck, she can do this all by herself. God damn.
Do they go into what the other colors? Because in the main meeting room at House of Slaughter, you see like blue and green and other colors. Do they talk about
there's red, blue. Well, they call it azure, but there's red, blue, and silver aside from
green.
And I know. Oh, there is
green.
So it's like medieval time. When you go to medieval times, and you pick a knight that has a different color.
Wins.
Yeah.
Well, the green masks specifically hunt dragons. And
and that's why there's no green masks in the House of Slaughter. Yeah,
the gray masks hunt like werewolves,
old men,
vampires,
just old people,
like traditional monsters. And then white masks are pack hunters, black masks are solo. The blue masks are the people that like feed the intel, like they're like the
intelligence section of the.
But
so they're not hunters per se.
But do black masks and white masks also hunt vampires and dragons on occasion, or they just stick to imaginary monsters?
That would be like what the silver masks do. Like if it's if it's a certain type of monster, they'll send whoever they need to. Like so. Depending on the monster, they'll be like, "Oh, this needs white mask because we need a bunch of people there to hunt this one because it's huge."
But it's weird. But then vampires don't have pack and solo hunters; they just have a silver mask.
So we don't know if the silver hunters. I don't know. Well, Patrick might know more than me because he's read a little bit more. But to my knowledge, the silver hunters aren't necessarily pack or by themselves. Like it's just they hunt a specific type.
Yeah, they're specialty.
But it's just weird that like white and black mask, they're also specific type, but then split.
No, it's just like everything else kind of thing.
Well, everything is it's just human, whatever child monster, right?
Whatever imagination brings your way, I guess.
Yeah.
But the blue ones are specifically like the admins, I suppose, in the lamest of terms. But
they're like the Blue Ranger. The Blue Ranger is kind of the scientific, or Donatello.
They're the ones with glasses on that they know how to do science.
And the red masks are the ones that are basically like the finance people that are able to.
Well, that's important.
Finance everything.
Yeah, you gotta pay for the Order of St. George. It's not free.
And look, the
hunted monsters isn't free.
Yeah, and the U.S. tax code is very complex. You need specialists.
It's insanely unnecessarily complex.
Yeah. So rather than going into the details here, but wrapping up the story arc, Erica takes Bien and James away and uses her familiar monster to kind of take the shape of the mother in a way. Like she makes James imagine the mother essentially.
Yeah.
And James, and at this point, James is like, "Oh fuck, I am responsible for this," and she's like, "Yeah, kind of, sorry," kind of thing. And then essentially, she uses her familiar to like throws her octopus doll in the backyard and basically goes like, "Good job, you recreated the mom for me," in a fake way that draws them to me. And then she murders the rest of the monsters. And yeah, the white mass did pack hunt rather. The one of the children, but like the other 3 come and she kills them. Or is it 5? I don't know. 5 total.
I think there were 5 kids. Yeah.
So she kills 4 at the end. I can't remember.
4. Yeah.
I do love. So there's like a nice little callback from the beginning of the issues when she's talking to the little girl in the wagon. She comes out covered in blood and she's just like chugging water and she's like, "I stink, I need a shower." And at the very end of this, when she walks back into the house, James and Bien are like, "Are you alive? Like, what's happening right now?" And she's like, and she just wordlessly walks over to the sink and like dunks her head in the sink and is like drinking water and like going like, oh fuck. And then she goes like, "I stink, I need a shower," like kind of thing. And I'm just like, I love that, like just the full circle of like, I did this at the beginning and now I'm done kind of thing.
Well, one thing about the end that I really liked is how James Tynion the fourth, the author, kind of plays
Robert Tynion?
Robert Tynion.
Yeah,
the first.
Yeah.
But he again plays with tropes. I know earlier I talked about James and that whole thing. But at the end, Erica gets on a Greyhound bus, just like Reacher, gets on a Greyhound bus. And James is on the bus too, and James says, "So where are we going?" Implying sort of, oh, he's going to be her sidekick for the rest of the series. But then immediately she kind of rolls her eyes, and James goes, "No, actually, I'm going to my mom's house, my stepmom's."
She doesn't roll her eyes. She's like, literally, no.
Yeah.
He's like, "Where are we going?" She's like, "No."
But James says like,
with you, I'm going to see my grandparents.
Yeah, he says, "I'm going to go see my grandparents. I'm going to go live there." So I just like how James Tynion sort of plays with that, also that trope norm of sort of, no, this isn't just going to be her sidekick. Yeah. We're done now.
Yeah.
With this character.
Again, not to spoil, but like the next arc does sort of the same thing in a different way, and it's really interesting. The offering of a sidekick or a protege is there, and then it kind of gets turned on its head. And it's also one of those things you're just like, I love this.
Another note, because I read that Robert Tynion the first is from Milwaukee, so he's kind of like a middle America kind of guy.
Oh, okay.
And this also, Archer's Peak is in Wisconsin or something, and then the House of Slaughter based in Chicago, which is like New York or LA. New York or LA.
LA.
Chicago. Why would you be headquartered in Chicago?
Have you tried deep dish pizza?
Ugh, I have.
It's a casserole. It's not a pizza. It was a trick question.
It is. But House of Slaughter, get a real headquarters in a real. Chicago doesn't even have good tax. At least go to North Carolina or a Southeast state, the Sun Belt state with real tax incentives. What are your red bandanas doing? Why have a headquarters in Chicago?
I like Chicago.
Chicago's fine. It's fine. What's the problem?
It's fine. It's okay. I'm done.
It could have been Atlanta.
Well, are you done though?
But Atlanta would offer real tax incentives to their corporate.
Wait, what was that, Patrick?
I was gonna say, does this pass the Bechdel test? The Bechdel test.
Al, do you hear that in your headphones?
I hear it. Does this pass the Bechdel test?
The answer is probably
no. Editor's note. Our last episode, we forgot to do the Bechdel test.
You know what? We don't always have to do all our things, man. That's
yeah,
okay.
but just we forgot.
But
this one, I don't think this one does. Does this one pass it? I don't think it does.
Well, I was going to say the holiday special they passed because Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn definitely talk.
Patrick, I'm talking about Something is Killing the Children.
The
time has passed. No, the time has passed for the holiday episode.
We can go back.
Yeah, it does
time
pass
has
because Erica talks to the little girl with one eye at the beginning, and they talk about monsters.
That cannot be passing.
I mean, that counts. Also, I mean,
Counts.
Erica has conversations with Cecilia that has nothing.
No,
to do
first
with
of all,
anybody
the
else.
Bechdel test is 2 women have to be talking. That is a girl. That's not a woman. 2
All right, that
women have
counts.
to be
How
talking
dare
about
you?
something.
Are you saying my daughter's not a woman?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. She's a little girl.
Incorrect.
That is not a woman. That's a little girl. Just like
that's-
your son is
she
not a
identifies.
man. He's a little boy.
She identifies as a female.
She doesn't know what she identifies. How old is she? She's got to be at least, what,
Who
5 years
knows?
old to identify properly? I don't know what the age is, but...
Well, she's 5.
Oh, so I guess she is old enough. All right, so that's fine.
I mean, technically, we don't know what the gender is of Octo, the octopus doll.
Of anyone.
Well,
we
also,
don't know.
she talks to Cecilia. She has chats with Cecilia on a front porch, and there's no one there. You know, like they talk.
I don't know if
and
we
they
can
talk about
really
monsters.
call this...
It's
I don't know if
not
we can really call this passing the Bechdel test. This isn't a real...
I'm on. Usually, I would fight. I would fight to the letter of like "fuck you," it passes. But I'm with Al on this one. Like, even with the main character being a strong female lead, as this comic clearly has, she's a lone wolf, and she really doesn't talk to almost anyone at all, let alone a singular other female in a room. Not about something that's currently going on. Yeah.
We don't have a dedicated scene, right, of Erica and someone else, some other woman just discussing something.
Spoiler for later
really
arcs definitely passes.
That.
Yeah, but it doesn't pass. This arc I would say it passes on a technicality, and I call bullshit. And,
but not the spirit. I don't think the spirit of the rule.
The spirit of the rule isn't there. And usually I'm a stickler for that, Al, and I'd say fuck you. It passes at the letter of the law. And in this one, I'm like, no, I agree with you. It doesn't pass.
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys. She goes to the police station, and it's her and the old woman and beyond, and it's just the 3 of them talking.
Oh, they do talk. Okay.
But I do agree, for it to have a female protagonist, it's not an easy pass. It is a hard for the details.
I mean, in terms of strong female characters, Jesus Christ, yeah.
No, she's amazing. No, Erica Slaughter is amazing.
Yeah.
She's just
the best.
Great. She's great.
And what
I would say it doesn't pass on a technicality, or it would pass on a technicality, but the spirit of it isn't there. Again, later volumes, not so much. Passes flying colors. But that being said, what did you guys think about this comic as a whole?
We already
not
did.
as an overall take, but let's talk about.
I'd recommend it. Yeah, I'd recommend it. I know, again, I came off sort of, compared to you two, a little lukewarm on it, but I'd still recommend it. It's fun. I mean, if someone said, I want to read a comic that isn't a DC or Marvel superhero comic, what would you recommend?
Yeah.
This would be towards the top of the list. I'd say, oh, this is a lot of fun. Definitely look into this one. It's great. Yeah.
I highly recommend. Erica Slaughter is one of the most interesting protagonists I've come across in recent or long-term history. And again, I've read The House of Slaughter, and I think just James Tynion is very good with the character work. The characters are all very interesting. I'm hoping, because The House of Slaughter, it's like 6 issues, like focusing on a different member of the house. And I'm kind of hoping that we have all of these characters are going to kind of come together, and coalesce. It's going to be really awesome. But highly recommend this.
I do also, just for our listeners, because it might be confusing, the House of Slaughter is an active Houston-based drag house that does drag reviews every Thursday nights. But we're not talking about that. I just want to confirm. Yeah,
we're talking about the Order of St. George House of Slaughter.
Yeah, we're talking about the Order of St. George.
Completely fictional.
Yeah. Although the House of Slaughter girls do slay as well, but just not dragons or vampires.
I wholeheartedly would recommend this book. I mean, it's such a refreshing break from superhero books, which is, I mean, we all kind of said that as we were reading along. We're just like, oh my God, this is a breath of fresh air. But aside from that, even, it's such an easy read. You tear through it. Like, I ate this book up. Like, I couldn't get enough. And like, the only separation between me and Patrick is that I didn't get to the side books yet, kind of thing. But yeah, I loved it. and I would highly recommend this book. Whether you need a break from superhero books or not, it's just a good book. Horror wise, I know it's not. It is graphic and it is gory, but it's not like it's cartoony at the same time. So it's not too visceral. It won't. So even if you don't love horror, you can, as Al was saying, you don't have to dwell on that. You can kind of like, oh,
you don't.
well, there's blood.
You do what I do. I just skipped all that shit. I didn't even read it. Yeah, just skip right past it. It's not a big deal at all.
How do you
Such a weirdo.
you skip pages in a comic? It's so easy.
I don't care. I just don't care about
30
James's little friends dying. I just skipped right past that shit.
It takes
Did not care.
seconds to read.
No time. Like zero time. Zero time to read those pages.
I just didn't care about James' friends dying in the woods.
Oh,
Skip
by
right
the
past
way, like total tangent, but Netflix, you never know what the fuck they're going to do with this, but supposedly they bought the rights to develop this into a show. And the people who did Dark, which I thought Dark was amazing, are behind it, but then they did 1899, which I thought was terrible.
I haven't watched
Oh, was Dark good? I only ever saw the first episode and then kind of let
Dark,
it go. It's
yeah,
good?
It's yes. That's Mobius Couch for
I think we won comics for the week. I think we did
we
it.
won it. Good journey, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Journey.